The Plate Mansion. In the kitchen of Aoyama Shuzan's house in Bancho, Okiku, a young and beautiful maid, was tidying up the tableware after the New Year's Day celebrations on the 2nd day of January. This maid worked cautiously, trying to avoid the cold reprimands of her cruel masters. At that moment, what Okiku was handling was a set of 10 secret antique plates from Nankin, which belonged to her master. She carefully washed each plate and gently wiped them before placing them into a nearby box. Suddenly, a large cat came in from who knows where and seized some leftover grilled fish from the table. In that miserly household, the taking of leftovers would often lead to harsh reprimands, so Okiku was startled and tried to chase the cat away. In the process, one of the plates she was holding slipped from her hands and broke. Okiku realized what had happened and felt a rush of despair, but it was already too late. Her face turned pale as she trembled with fear. "Okiku-san, did you do something wrong?" One of the concubines of her master approached her. She said this and then added, "Oh, what a terrible thing to have done." Seeing Okiku trembling, she felt pity and said, "But even if it was a treasured item, it's just one plate. It's not the end of the world. You don't have to worry too much." Just then, the lady of the house appeared and, upon seeing the broken plate in front of Okiku, seized her hair and started to shake her. "You bold girl! How could you break the master's cherished plate? Speak! Why did you break it? Why?" The lady shouted and, scolding Okiku, dragged her to the master's room. Okiku's thick, lustrous hair was now disheveled and falling apart. She was trembling and suffering. "Master, this bold girl has broken your cherished plate." "What?" The master's one-handed grip was already on the sword by the sword rack. "You impertinent fool! I'll cut you down and throw you outside." The lady thought it would be inappropriate to see bloodshed in the pine of the new year. "Still, I believe it's not right to stain the pine of the new year with blood." "I see. Then we shall wait until after the 15th. As he said this, the head servant took off his small jacket, stood up, and suddenly grabbed Okiku's right wrist, pulling her out onto the porch. He pressed her hand against the porch and cut off her middle finger. Okiku fainted. The head servant, seeing this, smiled with pleasure. "Lock this woman away somewhere." Okiku's body was lightly carried by one of the young samurai to an empty room in the corner of the kitchen. The other maids, watching from afar in fear, could do nothing, but as soon as Okiku was put into the empty room, they quietly approached to care for her. Some bound her wound, others fetched water, and some brought food. This was heartfelt sympathy for the poor woman, but Okiku lay there like a dead person, lost in thought, refusing to drink or eat. A few days later, Okiku vanished. The head servant, believing she had escaped, became extremely angry and sent his subordinate officers to search for her. At that time, he was responsible for investigating thieves and arsonists. However, Okiku's whereabouts remained unknown. Eventually, one of the household members found a pair of sandals Okiku had worn near an old well at the back of the house. The head servant was pleased that he had not personally had to kill her, reporting to the authorities that Okiku had died of illness. Thus, the poor woman disappeared from the head servant's house. However, in May of that year, when his wife gave birth to a baby boy, he noticed that one of the baby's middle fingers was missing. Upon seeing this, the wife recalled Okiku's finger and turned pale with blood rushing to her face. That night, a woman's voice began to be heard from the roof ridge of the birthing house. Additionally, near the old well, there were voices counting, 1, 2, 3, which continued to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, before turning into cries. From the old well, blue will-o'-the-wisps emerged, and some claimed to have seen the figure of a gaunt woman with long black hair floating above the well. In the head servant's house, fearful, they sent representatives to various temples to receive protective talismans and conducted prayers, but the strange occurrences did not cease. Because of this, the head servant was relieved of his duties due to mismanagement of household affairs and was sent away to live with relatives. Consequently, the family quickly fell into ruin, and the estate was overgrown with grass. The spirit of Okiku was said to have been liberated by Ryoyo Shonin of Denzuin Temple,